everybody this evening. Congratulations to Chris Horsley, our Technology Director. Chris has successfully completed the MSBO Leadership Institute. This year-long program requires a significant commitment and help in helping realize and develop leadership skills. So congratulations to Chris. Just a shout out to Cheryl Thomas, Assistant Superintendent in charge of curriculum instruction. Yesterday we held EagleCon here at Linden High School, which is a professional development opportunity for our students. For our staff. It gives them the opportunity to learn about curriculum instruction in some ways that they can take that information back to their classroom to help our students. The great thing that Cheryl has done with EagleCon is set it up in a way that we have our peers teaching our peers. So we do have iron sharpening iron. So we're really proud of the work that Cheryl's done to allow our staff that opportunity. So kudos to her. As far as my student section, I really don't have anything left because Alice stole all my thunder. But again, congratulations to our cross country, our volleyball teams, our football teams. I do want to point out that our marching band had a great final performance this past weekend at the state finals at Ford Field and placed 6th in the state in Flight 4. The students worked hard and represented Linden very well. I'm also excited to announce that Alexander Harvey was the only student in our flight to receive the senior scholarship in the amount of $2,000. And he received this during the Flight 4 awards ceremony. So congratulations to our marching band and congratulations to Alex Harvey. Board, just a reminder that a 3-district board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 12th. The meeting will take place at Fenton and begin at 6 p.m. If you are interested in attending, please RSVP to Ms. Callard. I do believe we have 2 that have RSVP'd so far, Ms. Hanson and Ms. Ramberg, is that correct? Yep. So please note, board, that we can have no more than 3 board members attend because it is not an official decision-making meeting. And so no action will be taken. And then the last thing I have is just a reminder that the GC ASBM Holiday Gathering Board Service and Retirement Awards Program is scheduled for Thursday, December 4th. You've got the information, I believe, so again, if you plan on attending, please let us know as soon as possible. Congratulations to Ms. Luck, who will be recognized for her years of service through the Genesee County Area School Board Members Association and her service to Linden. So thank you, Ms. Luck. That's all I have.
Thanks, Russ. I know my time as a board member, both the student board rep and the superintendent have taken all of our thunder. That's all right. Is there any board reports this evening? Ms. Hanson?
So was it 2 weeks ago I attended the AMC? Mr. Smolsky presented on our 3-district consortium. I did end up talking to a couple of people that attended that session. They were really impressed with how we handle special education amongst our districts. I took some classes. One that stood out the most to me was anatomy of an audit report, which really helped me to understand that audit report that we get every year and what the important things are to look at. So I'm very thankful for that. So this year, when we do our the next upcoming audit, I will actually know what it says. I'm trusting everyone to tell me. We also had pretty extensive legislative update. And I got to talk with board members around the state and see what's going on around. So it was a good time.
That's very good. Thank you for attending that as well. Ms. Rammer?
I was in report, but I also attended the conference in Traverse City with Ms. Hanson. And I did some classes. I did the 102 government policy, 106 community relations, 107 labor relations, and 103 basic school law and finance. So I did a lot of those classes and I learned a lot. And then I also met a lot of people there. They were to share stories about what other districts are doing good. And I did shout out our Consortium that we do as well. And there was smaller schools that thought that was a really good idea. So it was pretty nice.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for taking your time to attend as well. It's always nice when board members can take advantage of these professional development opportunities. And I also want to, I know we'll still do some additional follow-up, but I know Ms. Hanson also sent out a few things to board members as well to share from the conference. So anything you guys have to share out to the group is perfect. Thank you for doing that also. It's nice when we can take advantage of resources from each other as well. So any other board reports this evening? All right. I think the only 2 things I had on here was about the Genesee County holiday gathering and the NHS induction. So we've covered down on that. And we will go ahead and move forward then. board meeting, for those that are here for this reason. And this, for the Student of the Month recognition, this is what makes our jobs a lot of fun. So we will, take turns inviting the principals up and teachers to share their Students of the Month. And I'm gonna go in no particular order, but the order that's on my sheet here, which probably doesn't mean anything. So, we'll start with Central Elementary. I think Ms. Morford is here. So if she would like to bring up her Students of the Month.
I probably don't need to testify.
Good evening, thank you for allowing us to bring 2 students of the month this month. I would like to invite Kayla, who is our student of the month for October, who is feeling under the weather back in October. So Kayla, come on up, come on girl, you got this. And I would like to invite up Riley Mize and Amanda Edwards, her teachers, to share some fabulous things about why she was chosen for the student of the month.
Good evening, I'm Riley Mize, and I teach fifth grade at Central. It is our pleasure to recognize our student of the month, Kayla, who truly embodies what it means to soar each and every day. She is kind, helpful, and always willing to join in with her classmates and her teachers. Her positive attitude and joyful spirit bring warmth and energy to our classroom, making it a better place for everyone.
Kayla approaches every task with dedication and a strong work ethic, showing a genuine commitment to learning and doing her best. She consistently follows our SOAR expectations, setting an excellent example for others to follow. She is a true joy to have in class, and we are so proud to celebrate her today.
Kayla, congratulations. Keep up the good work. We're glad you're feeling better now.
Way to go, girl.
Then I would like to bring up to celebrate our November student of the month, Merrick. Come on, man, it's your time to shine. And he is being recognized by all of our special teachers this month, who have grown to love him and know him for a handful of years. So speaking tonight for our special teachers at Central is Jamie Jordan.
It'll be painless, I promise. So as Ms. Morford said, from all the special teachers, and we thank you for the chance to honor students. We often kind of get pushed to the side a little bit, and it's fun to be able to come up. And this month, the Central Elementary Specials team, which includes physical education, art and STEAM, and music, is proud to recognize Merrick Runcie as our 5th grade student of the month. In physical education, Mrs. Stockford has seen Merrick show tremendous growth as a student and as a leader. He consistently demonstrates responsibility and kindness, eagerly helping with equipment and offering support to his classmates as a peer buddy. His positive attitude and willingness to lend a hand make him a true role model in the gym and beyond. In art and STEAM, Mrs. Books has had the privilege of watching Merrick grow from his early years at Hyatt Elementary to the confident and compassionate learner he is today at Central. He approaches every challenge with a positive attitude and a genuine desire to do his best. Merrick's creativity, curiosity, and kindness show through in everything he does. He is the type of student who not only strives for his own success, but also lifts others up along the way. In music, Merrick eagerly volunteers to be a peer buddy to our special education students and takes that responsibility very seriously. While helping others, he continues to excel in playing the recorder and shows great enthusiasm during rehearsals for our upcoming musical. His excitement and encouragement help create a joyful atmosphere for everyone around him. As special teachers, we have the unique privilege of working with students over many years, watching them grow not just in their skills, but in confidence, empathy, and character. Seeing Merrick's growth over time has been a true joy for all of us. He exemplifies the qualities we hope to nurture in every child: kindness, perseverance, creativity, and a genuine love of learning. We are so proud to celebrate Merrick Runcie as our student of the month.
Merrick, congratulations. It's pretty cool to have all of the special teachers decide on one student. You must be pretty well-rounded, like being the student of the month in gym and music and STEM, all of the things, so it's pretty cool. good work.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we will do our Hyde Elementary Student of the Month. Mr. Stricker is here, I know.
Good evening. We all like the boots.
I think you guys coordinated.
A little bit, and I know how to wear my boots too. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Congratulations to everybody. This is a great turnout. It is a wonderful night. We're here to celebrate Adeline. I'm so proud of you and Ms. Nicole for coming to share some wonderful things about you. So congratulations.
First, I'm gonna give you this to hold. You gotta look that way this month. Okay, so it's always a great night to be able to bring a student here, and, you guys know I always start out by thanking the parents for giving me such a great kid to work with. Adlin, it's just one of those well-rounded, always willing to help students. First week of school, not the first 2 days, but first week, as we're trying to get ourselves organized, Adlin noticed in the morning, our doors didn't stay open yet, and the aides were trying to get kids in and this and that. She volunteered to come in every morning, just hold the door for all the kids to come in, without even being asked. She said, I can do that. Adlin is involved in softball and gymnastics. She is one of our peer buddies with the Young 5 student. She's on our safety patrol. She always gives 100% effort in everything she does. And I had asked the special teachers, I sent out an email, I said, Adeline Cox is Student of the Month. If you have anything you want me to talk about at the board, let me know. They all responded within 20 minutes. So I'm gonna read these to you just so everybody hears how great everybody thinks you are. This is from Mrs. Books, her art teacher. I'm so excited for Adeline. I've had the pleasure of working with her in art for the past 2 years, and she continues to impress me with her leadership, kindness, and initiative. Adeline is always someone I can count on to lend a helping hand, whether it's assisting a friend, helping with classroom projects, or keeping their room clean and organized. She consistently leads by example, often being the first to raise her hand, yes she is, and participates with enthusiasm. Her positive attitude and dedication make her a role model for her peers and a truly deserving recipient of the Student of the Month. Sorry, now the month. Mrs. Bush, your STEM teacher, had this to say about you. Adeline is a model student who shows kindness, curiosity, and leadership in STEM. Her problem-solving skills make her a great leader and engineer. Miss Jordan, who's here tonight, her music teacher, said Adeline is a joy to have in music. She's always ready to do whatever activity we are doing. She is also eager to help others and be an encouragement when needed. Great choice. Mrs. Stockford, her PE teacher, Adeline is a wonderful student to have in physical education class. She is kind, helpful, and dependable. She is always trying her best and gives a positive attitude every day. Congratulations, well deserved.
Great job, Adeline. One of the things that's always awesome about Student of the Month that I know I appreciate in other board members as well is it's very rarely about always being perfect in academics, although I'm sure a lot of these students are, but just the attributes of being a good friend, a kind person, helpful to others, and ready to jump in and just be a good role model by leading by example at school is the amazing part. So keep up the good work. All right, up next is Linden Elementary. Mrs. Stricker is here.
Good evening. We are really well represented at Linden Elementary tonight from Linden because we have our October Student of the Month and our November Student of the Month. So we'll start first with Mrs. Bader and her student teacher, Megan Lone, coming up to introduce Rowan Southwell.
Hello, good evening. This is Rowan Southwell. All right, and
pleasure to introduce our third grade student of the month from October, Rowan Southwell, a student who truly represents the spirit of our school and soars every day. We were actually unable to attend the October meeting because Rowan had a championship game for his baseball team. Both in and outside of school, Rowan is such a team player and the type of teammate you definitely want on your team. Rowan is known for always being willing to lend a helping hand, whether it's holding the door for classmates and teachers, helping stack extra chairs in the room, or helping classmates log into new technology. His kindness shines through in big ways and in small ones. Rowan consistently follows school rules, models good behavior, and reminds others through his actions that doing the right thing is always the best choice. He takes pride in his work, shows respect to teachers and peers, and makes our classroom and school community a better place to learn and grow with his positive attitude and bright smile. His silly anecdotes also never fail to bring a smile to anyone's face. When we talk about what it means to be a role model and an excellent teammate, Rowan's name naturally comes up. His positive attitude, responsibility, and genuine care for others makes him stand out. Thank you, Rowan, for being such a positive force all the time. I am so grateful to be your teacher and to have you a part of our class team.
Congratulations, Rowan. So did you win the baseball game? Yeah. Awesome. And that was good. You won the game and then you guys come here tonight. Perfect. Keep up the good work.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Fogan and her student teacher, Ian Crampton. They are going to be presenting the November Student of the Month, Leo Maswong.
Good evening, I'm Sandy Fogan, and this is Leo, and Mr. Crampton and I together selected Leo as our Student of the Month. Mr. Crampton has taken over the classroom recently, so I allowed him the opportunity to write some fabulous words about Leo.
Leo was my first thought when given the opportunity to select a student for this award. He's on task 100% of the time, completing work appropriately, waiting for directions, and listening intently. He's a bright student who scores well, but more importantly, has a strong drive for learning, which I'm sure will carry through his adult years. Leo has a high level of respect and thought for his peers and cares deeply that everyone is happy around him. Leo has a strong sense of right and wrong, as well as a good sense of judgment. I know that he thrives in other classrooms as well through various positive discussions throughout the year so far. Leo is a fun personality that involves a vast amount of creativity and originality. He enjoys having fun with his classmates at the appropriate time by playing games, creating stories to act out. Leo brings positivity to every atmosphere he's part of, and I am positive that will continue throughout his life. It is my belief that Leo is a perfect example of the phrase, actions speak louder than words. For that reason, and the other reasons previously stated, Leo is an exemplary living equal. Leo, I have only one task for you. Keep being yourself.
Leo, congratulations. Keep up the good work. All right, up next, we will honor our Linden Middle School Student of the Month. Mr. DeLille is here.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me present our Student of the Month. First, I would like to congratulate all of the students and their parents and grandparents that have came here tonight, and also our athletes that are in the house and keep it rolling this fall. You guys are doing a great job, and there's a lot of people paying attention. Our Student of the Month for the middle school comes from our SOAR leader group. So to be recognized out of the SOAR leaders as one of the best, if not the best, means a lot. The young man is not only tall, but he is a great young man and represents us all very well. So Mrs. Rory and Ms. White are here to talk about Mason Manuel. So come on up, Mason.
Hello, we are two of the advisors from the SOAR Leader Group, which will decide, along with Jennifer Gambrell and Travis Carson. On behalf of the program, we are happy to be here this evening to honor Mason. So Mason was nominated by the SOAR staff advisors for
our leaders also committed some of their precious time during the summer to attend a day-long leadership training session and to facilitate our sixth grade orientation. During this time, it quickly became clear to us advisors that Mason was undoubtedly meant to be a SOAR leader. His enthusiasm was infectious, and he welcomed his group of sixth graders with a charismatic personality and positive energy. They followed him through the middle school with engaged excitement as he guided them through a photo scavenger hunt to help them get to know their new school. I remember us advisors watching him interact with these new LMS students so easily and naturally, it was as if Mason had known them for years. In a creative and fun initiative all his own, Mason also proposed bringing popsicles to his sixth grade buddies, leaving a lasting positive impression that not only showcased his thoughtfulness, but also fostered a sense of camaraderie among the students. It is obvious that Mason's group of sixth graders have a great SOAR leader to look up to this year, not only because he's really tall, but because he embodies all the elements of a great leader: confidence, charisma, approachability, responsibility, and the list could go on and on. His willingness to help and show leadership does not stop at being a SOAR leader. He also played a vital role in our new student breakfast, welcoming his kids who were new to our district and making their first experience a warm and inviting one. Mason is also just an all-around great mentor for his peers. His commitment to kindness and responsibility sets a high standard for fellow students, and we are confident that he will continue to excel in any endeavor he chooses to pursue. Mason, thank you for being an incredible SOAR leader and an amazing student at our middle school. Everyone, please join Mrs. Rohrig and I in congratulating Mason Vanderwall, Linden Middle School's Student of the Month. Mason, congratulations. It's pretty awesome to be like a standout peer buddy and mentor. That's pretty important, and popsicles go a long way too. So good to have. All right, last but not least is Linden High School, and I think Mr. Dresky is here.
Thank you, congratulations to everybody here tonight, and thanks to the board for allowing the platform to showcase yet another wonderful high school student. So at this time, Charlotte and her nominator, Mrs. Schneider, come on down. That is for you. I'll let Mr. Schneider take over from here.
So whenever I think about who should be student of the month, I think it has to be somebody really special. I mean, she's a senior, and so we have students that are going off into the world very soon. Sadly, that we can't keep Charlotte. But she's amazing. Charlotte is a person who thinks of other people before herself. I remember the first time I met Charlotte was my first year actually here at Linden. And she was a ninth grader, and I was helping out with the marching band, and at some point, this blind girl comes up to me and says, "I'm Charlotte, if you need anything, let me know." And little did I know at that time that that truly is Charlotte. That is who she is. Fast forward to as a junior. There was a new student that came into the building, and she was new to Linden. And I had kind of known this student from before, and she was very shy. I thought if anyone can help this student get through being a junior in high school and a brand new high school, it's gonna be Charlotte. And so, as luck would have it, she sat right next to Charlotte in class, and I thought, this is perfect. And of course, within a couple of weeks, Charlotte got her talking. It was wonderful. Today, the thing that clinched, I think, Ed for her to be student of the month was, I'm the sophomore class, one of the sophomore class sponsors, and was tasked with putting together the parade. It was fun. And so, it's very difficult. There was a day where Charlotte wanted to do corrections on a test. By the way, she's taking AP chemistry as a senior. Not only is she amazing, but she is smart and driven and hardworking. And excited. I wanted to hear that there are other people coming up that hopefully maybe could take Charlotte's place. So, but in any case, she wanted to do some test corrections. She was kind of upset about her test grade, which really wasn't so bad, right? And she wanted my help, and I was in the middle of trying to put together the parade and making banners and all of these crazy things. And she's like, but I really wanted help, and I I'm sorry, Charlotte, I'm giving you my full attention, I promise. And she says, never mind, you obviously need my help. And at that moment, I was so stressed, I'm like, I'm so sorry, Charlotte. She goes, no, you obviously need my help. This can wait, what can I do for you? And by the way, this is in the morning, before she goes to DCI, she sits in my classroom until 8 o'clock, I think it is. 8:05. Yes, and offers to help all of the time, where there's so many other things she could be doing, and when she's not helping, she's usually doing homework. So this is not normal teenage behavior. In any case, she's amazing. And when she did that, I was like, wow, it takes a big person to put aside what they're worried about, especially when you're 17, right? And think about somebody else. And I was really touched by that and everything else we've done. So I'm glad that we could celebrate her tonight.
Charlotte, congratulations. And you're in the marching band as well. Congratulations to the marching band. That's amazing. I know you guys work so hard. I had the pleasure of living close enough to the high school that I can hear all of your hard work. Which I really love when I have the windows open. So congratulations and keep up all the hard work. So. And congratulations again to all of our students of the month. I know it's been said over and over, but to parents, grandparents, family, friends, all the teachers that are here tonight, I always am so taken aback by all the teachers that take time to come present students of the month as well. This is, evening time. There's a lot of things you could be doing with your own families, and you are here tonight celebrating with us, so that means a lot. It's really special. Actually, I was sitting here thinking, kind of along the same lines of Charlotte offering to help, someone else. I kind of was feeling stressed today, and I'm like, man, I'm just having like a rough day. It's kind of been a stressful time, and I'm hearing all of our students in the month that this is why we do this. I feel better. Thank you all to the students, because you just made my day a lot better. So, really appreciate all of you. And with that, I know as much as you would all love to stay for the rest of the board meeting, and you're welcome to. We would love it if you would. We will pause for a brief moment if you want to step out, get some pictures, and go out and get ice cream or something fun with your special students. So thank you all for being here. I'll make sure that you do this. They're in it for the long haul. Oh, we got some in the far back corners. There's plenty of seats up here, y'all. You have a better spot to listen from. All right, well, up next would be our administrative updates, which we do not have in this evening, so we will move along with public comment. We have public comment, we do not this evening. So we will move along to our consent agenda, which consists of our minutes from the October 26th regular meeting and our district consortium cooperative education program agreement. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? I'll support that. So it's been moved and supported. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have a couple of action items this evening, and a couple of discussion items coming up. So our action item this evening is our Mercantile Township School Resource Officer Agreement. And we did have some discussion on this at the last meeting. Self did some additional work and brought back some information for us to review in advance of the meeting. So before we have any discussion, because it is an action item, I will make a motion to approve the Untitled Chapter SRO agreement as presented. All those, okay, yep, now we have a motion
I did here on Tuesday, if I didn't, I apologize, but, yeah, give me a second, I'll pull it up. I did have a meeting, with Mr. Frederick, Mr. Brinkley, and yes, Mr. Frederick did go over their justification. Some of the differences, one of them was on some calculations, on workman's comp, based on their percentage and what I originally had sent to him a couple of times. And then, he did include the administrative costs, rate per hour, how many minutes per week they anticipated, administrative. They also included administrative costs for the chief of police to manage the SRO. Again, they included the rate, they included, what they anticipated with the hours of time. And basically they, at that point, came up with a number of approximately $41,000. So they did indicate, since the board voted, the Argentine Township Board voted on the $40,000, that, that's where they stood. And, we did talk about potentially a multi-year agreement. And I think through the process of our conversations, we determined that it would be best to move forward with the current, agreement on the table, the $40,000 for the 1 year. And then that would give us time, basically starting sometime in the spring, to get together with Mr. Frederick and Mr. Brinkley, because let's be honest, the whole contract in general probably needs to be a little more revisions, based that's still the original contract, as far as I can tell from when the SRO was initiated many, many years ago.
Okay, to me, it's been a pretty effective relationship with Argentine Township. It provides us very necessary services for our district. I think they've done it as efficiently and cost effectively as possible over the years. Appreciate that greatly. So I guess I would like to see us reach out to not just a 2-year deal, but a 3-year deal, just to mirror what they've done with their contract with their part-time employees. I think it makes a lot of sense to just get it done. So I would stop at 2 years if possible. But again, thanks to Argentine Township for honoring the initial $40,000. I understand the $41,000 might be a more accurate number to what they feel they need to charge, so we may have to, revise our expectations of what could be the new number for the future 2, 3, second, third years of the contract. But it's good that he gave you a little more justification for how they think, and I agree that oversight by the chief of police will, let's spend some time considering the program. So I think it's important that we compensate our Argentine Township for that, not just what it costs the extra officers. So I'm all for this contract as presented, and I hope that, it sounds like we're gonna be able to come up with a pretty good number, for the next couple of years, I would expect. And if there's some revisions to the contract that need to be done as far as the scope and how they perform, I think they'll probably be very much, because it has been a very effective relationship. So that's it for me, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Ms. Randberg and then Mr. Montague?
I would say, I obviously wasn't at the last meeting, but I was able to watch it on a YouTube link, so I could see what was said. And, I wanna thank the township for allowing us to have the police officer both in Linden and Argentine. I love that it's in the district, not private. And I do appreciate the, one of the board members is here, to listen, so we do appreciate the input.
I'll just briefly add that we did talk about it last time, and we didn't feel comfortable making a decision as a board because there hadn't been a whole lot of communication, but, I appreciate also kind of to echo what Mr. Murphy and Ms. Framberg said, that, Mr. Frederick and Mr. Brinkley eventually kind of came to the thrust, and you all were able to have a meeting, so I'm glad to hear that the lines of communication are open, and I'm sure that'll kind of continue in the future, so thank you.
Yep, thank you, and that's pretty much exactly what I was gonna say. We appreciate Mr. Brinkley being here both at the last meeting and this meeting. I think that was helpful, so he had kind of understood where we were coming from, and really it was never about the cost per se, it was more about the process and how it was kind of presented and communicated, so I'm hopeful as well that we'll have a easier time moving forward on that. And I do agree with what Mr. Murphy said too regarding maybe even potentially like 3-year contract, like this has been a good relationship, we Georgetown Township, School Resource Officer Agreement as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have a few discussion items this evening. First up being the summer tax resolution for 2026. As board members know, this is a resolution that we pass each year for the collection of summer taxes. It indicates that for 2026, we would impose a summer tax levy of 50% in the annual school property taxes. And then it's better for taxpayers to pay it over 2 payments. It's consistent with how we've collected over the years, at least all the years I've been on the board. So this isn't an action item this evening, so does anybody have any comments or questions on this process? Mr. Murphy?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Luck. I just think it's a great opportunity that we continue with this biannual collection of the tax for the school district. The state kind of forced our hand years ago, and it was a good thing because it set in motion the ability to be normalized with what everybody's used to. So, if you're an escrow payer, you probably don't really notice it, but if you're a non-escrow payer, it can be very helpful, I think, to kind of not be saddled with one big amount at one time a year. So I'm very thankful that we have this opportunity to continue this, and I very much think we should. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? All right, presume this is on the consent agenda for the next meeting then. Perfect. All right, up next are our policy revisions. There are several, so hopefully everyone has had a chance to read through these. I do appreciate Mr. Sosowski, Mrs. Callard, and team putting together the Cliff Notes version for us. I know this is probably a lot, but it's super helpful, where we can kind of just see the quick what the updates are for the policies. Again, these are not for action this evening. They'll go on consent at the next meeting unless otherwise noted. But does anybody have any questions or comments about any of these revisions? Mr. Murphy?
Thank you. Mr. Selsky, policy 5120 and 5460 were listed in your revisions, but they're not listed as part of a group for the full. You gave us a quick note version of
5120 is on here.
5120, yeah, we rejected those revisions, particularly because the revisions dealt with assignment within the district. So for example, our K-3 buildings, we based on address. We don't do that. We do it based on balance, our best bet to balance the numbers. So we rejected those changes. And I think you said the other one was 5460?
Yeah.
That was the graduation requirement. Again, I'm recommending we reject those changes, and that had to do with the FAFSA grant that came out, I believe, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
We do not participate in the FAFSA grant, so the changes would not, do not apply to Linden Community Schools.
Right. And, I'm sorry, I still don't see those in my list of blue.
They're not,
Because we're not
correct,
making a
we're not
change.
changing them.
Okay.
They're not listed in the blue links, but they are listed
Right.
in the update link, just so the board knows.
And just kind of to, I guess, clear up a little bit of something, I am a little bit more familiar with this FAFSA completion thing maybe than a few other board members, just because I've attended a couple of these sessions that have talked about this. This would require Linden students to complete the FAFSA to graduate. And we probably don't have the resources available to like help students with that, so at this time, it's not the right move for Linden. But there are some school districts in Michigan that are requiring that, as a graduation requirement for students, so.
But the policies that you outlined are not shown in my list because we're not.
Correct.
Probably be helpful if they were included just for.
Okay.
All right, that's it for me, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? All right, very good. Well, we will move along then to, the next item. Did you have any additional comments on any of those, Russ?
No.
Okay, all right, very good. The next item to discuss is the 31AA funding, and I know we've had a chance to kind of take a look at this, probably have had some conversations. I know I've talked to Russ a little bit about this, trying to understand more myself, so I appreciate him putting together something to share with us for information this evening. This is not an action item for us, at this point. This is just, kind of for us sharing some updates and information, because this is a change from the past.
So again, I just wanted to provide some information to the board about the 31 AA for the fiscal year 26. As we know, the school aid budget was just approved recently, took a long time, but it got done. Part of that had to do with 31 AA, which is the safety and security and mental health monies that we received. Basically, I think it's since 2022, 23. And so, couple things. The purpose of the information of the presentation tonight is to provide the board with information and to seek understanding of the 31 AA funding process. And I repeat, information. Because as you'll see tonight, I don't know the answers. Our legal counsel do not know the answers. And in some cases, most legislatures don't know the answers. So this will be a board decision at the end, not today. Again, we have to declare by November 30th, but it is a board decision. Because the board is the only entity that can waive privileges on behalf of the district. So again, just a quick recap of the 31 AA money. There was basically $300 million allocated for school safety and mental health across the state. So there's 4 subsections of 31 AA. Subsection 2, it's an opt-in process. Basically, it was on a per pupil funding of approximately $140 per pupil. If you opt in, that's what you get. We'll go through that here in a minute. The money must be dispersed based on the language of the law by December 31st. So that $200 million must be dispersed by December 31st as of right now. There's 2 other subsections. Subsection 4, it's a competitive grant for school resource officers and safety dogs. Subsection 5 is also a competitive grant for mental health needs. There are some similarities. Let's start with subsection 5. So I'm going to go in reverse order. Subsection 5 is hiring or contracting for support staff for student mental health needs. It is a competitive grant. So we do the application process, we submit. Through that application process, there are pieces that we have to certify. Complete an expense report by July 1 of 2026. Return the funds that were used for unallowable expenses. So if the state determines we use them for unallowable, we've got to return those funds. We also have to submit a spending plan to sustain salaries after grant funding has concluded. So again, for student mental health needs and support. We'll get into the allowable expenses here shortly. We need to avoid duplication of services with the ISD. And then the last bullet, we need to agree to be subject to a comprehensive investigation, waive any privileges that may otherwise protect information from disclosure in the event of a mass casualty event, and must agree to comply with a comprehensive investigation. We'll get into all that later. So what are some allowable expenses for the mental health and student support? Psychologists, social workers, nurses, community health, marriage and family therapists, or direct hire or contracted service for any of those allowable expenses that they've indicated. They've also indicated, as you see later, if you have an idea or you think something may or may not be allowable, you contact MDE and they'll tell you. Subsection 4, school resource officers and safety dogs. Again, a competitive grant, we applied, very similar to how we're funding, so last year they grant for that one, but how we're funding the SRO at, down on the Linden Elementary and Hyatt campus through Linden Police Department. So again, we have to complete an expense report, which we currently do with that SRO grant that we are finishing up. Return the funds that are for unallowable expenses, submit a spending plan, avoid duplication with the ISD, and again, agree to the investigation, waive any privileges that may be protected in event of a mass casualty event. Allowable expenses, we're a little different. SRO must be properly licensed with the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement and in compliance on all applicable laws. It has to be a police officer. It can't be through a third-party private security office for this particular grant. Actually, for any of them. The safety dog must be contracted by a law enforcement agency. the dog must be trained in detection of firearms, explosive, narcotics, or banned substances. So in the past, we have used grant monies for support therapy animals. Can no longer do that. If we wanted a dog, it has to be a law enforcement dog through a law enforcement agency. Now let's talk about subsection 2. This is the opting in. Originally, in fact, at our last meeting, November 16th was the deadline to opt in. They have since extended that to November 30th. It's approximately $140 per pupil, based on our fall count of 2316, approximately $324,000 for safety, security, and mental health. It could be more if districts don't opt in. They have to distribute 100% of that $200 million by December 31st. So the districts that opt in will be able to divide that $200 million. Now that $140 is based on if all districts in the state of Michigan opt in. Opting in requirements. Again, we must complete an expense report by July 1. We must spend the funds by September 30th or request a 1-year extension. That's been pretty standard over the last couple of years with the 31AA dollars that we've received. Excuse me. Returning funds that are unallowable expenses. As I mentioned, contact MDE if you have questions about allowable expenditures. Avoid any duplication of services with the ISD. And agree to a comprehensive investigation. Must affirm and agree to waive any privileges in a mass casualty event and agree to comply with a comprehensive investigation. So let's talk about the allowable expenses for 31AA. Very similar to what we just talked about. Okay, this money here, we have a little more flexibility. The other is competitive grant, it's more money. That's how you can use that. So, safety infrastructure, training for school staff on crisis communication, mental health screening tools, hiring support staff, costs for collaboration with family and community partners, coordination with law enforcement, systematic needs assessment, resource mapping. What we've used the funding in the past for. Cameras, doors, emergency response systems, safety and security assessment costs. Again, what we've used the 31AA money in the past for. Age-appropriate training on responsible firearms. Resource officers. But again, you gotta follow, they've gotta be a police officer through an agency. So again, we have a little more flexibility with allowable expenditures with subsection 2. Conditions for acceptance. As I mentioned, for subsection 2, the opt-in, if we do that, we have to agree to be subject to a comprehensive investigation. We must affirmatively agree to waive the privileges that might otherwise protect information from disclosure in the event of a mass casualty event. And I have it highlighted because I'm going to define it here in a minute. And we must agree to comply with a comprehensive investigation. So what is a mass casualty event? And this is as it's defined within the language of the School Aid Act. Must agree to the following events of a mass casualty event. We have to agree to a comprehensive investigation. The state appoints it. So they investigate. We don't. Following a mass casualty event. We waive any privileges that would otherwise protect related information from disclosure, and we must fully comply with the investigation process. The other thing to note, the waiver has no temporal limits. So there's no beginning date, and there's no ending date. Incidents that occur on district grounds or at district-related activities that result in the following would be considered mass casualty events. A significant injury to fewer than 3 individuals. To not fewer than 3 individuals, so 3 or more. A fatality, just 1. A demand that exceeds normal local emergency response capacity. And a sudden and timely surge of emergency service needs. I apologize, that's supposed to say surge. Okay? So again, a little definition of each of those. A significant injury to not fewer than 3 individuals. Could this include? And again, no answers. Could it include a construction site accident? How about a big fight or a brawl at a sporting event? And I bring these up examples because you read about stuff like this in the newspaper. School bus accident. Maybe 3 or more individuals were significantly injured. Chemical spill, an accident on a field trip, out of state, or even out of country. Because again, it's a school district event. A fatality, again, just one. You have a contractor that may be doing some work, an accident. Unfortunately, something happens. A sports fatality. Again, nothing, you've read about it may not even be contact related. A staff member or community member suffers a heart attack. And I don't bring this up, but I think as a board, we may remember 3 or 4 years ago, we had that situation where a community member was on our property and had a heart attack and unfortunately passed away. A car accident in the parking lot, a student overdose, staff overdose, a community member overdose. Demands that exceed normal local emergency response capacity. So that would be something maybe where it's more than just Argentine Police Department showing up to this campus. It may be the state police department showing up. It might be Genesee County, maybe Livingston County, all coming to this campus because of an incident. Could have included a flood, tornado damage. I don't know. SWAT event, a fake bomb threat. And I added that because when we have those situations, we call 911. And I think as we've seen with response time, we get a surge of local emergency personnel on scene. Does that qualify now as a mass casualty event? A sudden and timely surge of emergency services, COVID, a tornado, fire, playground equipment collapses. Some practical implications, and again, I bring the definition back up for condition of acceptance because I want to talk about, or at least provide information to the board that in order to accept this or opt in, we must affirmatively agree to waive any privileges that may otherwise protect information from disclosure in the event of a mass casualty event. So again, let's talk about attorney-client privileges. It is a fundamental right. I have it highlighted because when you go to the Michigan State Bar, it talks about it. Okay? So again, potentially, we waive that right. Waiving privileges that can allow for public access to relevant communication between district and legal counsel. And again, I had a conversation, isn't about transparency. It is about transparency, but it's also about the rights, potential rights that a district has and an individual has. Relevant communication could include legal advice and guidance, advice on policies, safety protocols, prior incidences that may have happened in the past that we will now be responsible for as a district. Risk assessments. Again, we've done risk assessments and safety assessments in the past. Sometimes those assessments bring up information that may cost $2 million, and that's just an example. Okay? So again, why did the district do that? Again, that's just an example. We'll get into more of those here in a minute when we talk about public perception. Some other attorney-client privilege waivers, and it does include attorney-client privilege of the board's counsel. So as a board, we retain different legal firms, insurance, financial, guidance on board protocols, legal. Again, potentially, in a situation, how it's going to be interpreted, we may have to waive those rights. It includes attorney work product privileges. It could include administrator or board members' privileges with personnel counsel or personal counsel. Meaning if you had your own legal attorney. Don't have that answer what it would look like, but again, it's definitely something that is being questioned right now. Could it be binding retroactively or prospectively? Again, I brought that up. Don't have a beginning date and we don't have an end date. The waiver is preempted and indefinite, creating uncertainty regarding future communications. Okay? All communications related to the subject matter could be accessed by state-appointed investigator and the public. It includes direct legal advice, internal discussion, risk assessments, strategic deliberations, and legal advisors. Again, usually under the attorney-client privileges, which under the Open Meeting Act, you have the right to go into closed session, could be potentially out there. Some other waiver implications: enhanced civil liability. Again, talking about previously confidential communications, even communications that some of you weren't even on the board for, or I wasn't even around for. Enhanced criminal exposure, possibly eliminates communication with counsel if the state or local prosecutor pursues charges. Public scrutiny, confidential information and internal deliberations could be subject to public attention, media coverage, or FOIA. Now, one thing they have pointed out, that FERPA would still be protected. So students' names could be protected. But again, all under the Open Meetings Act, you have certain rights in order to go to closed session, including students. Some of that may now be open to, again, depending on the situation, a state or local prosecutor. Operational impact, adjustments may be required in the way that discussions with legal counsel are documented, potentially slowing decision-making or reducing transparency. How are we going to communicate now in certain situations? How are we going to communicate with our legal counsel in certain situations? I don't have those answers. To hinder transparency, staff and leadership may be hesitant to seek legal advice or disclosure of all relevant facts to legal counsel. Again, depending on what now could be, that privilege could possibly be waived, and what does that mean when it comes to information that we're providing our legal counsel under that attorney-client privilege. Long-term considerations, whatever's created today or in the past could be subject to review years later. Administrative consequences, findings could influence oversight or regulatory actions at the state level, potentially impact compliance audits or review. So as an administrative group or administrative regulations could come into question, not because of the board decision, which it should be, but because of the state investigator's decision. Investigator-client privilege waiver, we potentially lose statutory privileges that any communication and information obtained between a licensed professional investigator and their client. So if we bring in a separate investigator, or if you personally acting as a board member, based on the situation, again, I don't have those answers, but it's out there. Those are questions being asked. Talk about FOIA for a minute. Under the FOIA rules, there is privileged communication. So under this potential 31AA option, privileged communication will no longer be exempt from disclosure. Emails, text messages, records on technology under the district's control that may be under attorney-client privilege. Will there be a cost? Yeah, there potentially would be. Okay, we have an individual in our district that deals with FOIA. And so if that becomes her full-time job, it's possible. And again, I don't know those answers. Open Meetings Act concern. Lose ability to enter closed session under Open Meetings Act Section 8(1)H, which allows a public body to go into closed session to consider material exempt from disclosure under FOIA. And there's other one that allow for attorney-client privileges. All board deliberations concerning a mass casualty event will need to occur in open session, unless, as I mentioned, because of FERPA. The insurance impact, we're part of the MESA pool. I do have it listed later on, I just can't, metropolitan area insurance. I got it listed later on, so I apologize. But MESA has indicated that coverage through MESA will not be affected by a member or a board's decision related to 31AA funds. MESA has the right, duty to defend any covered claim brought against a member within their team's condition limits, exclusions contained in the insurance policies. So MESA is saying that our insurances will still be there regardless of how our board chooses to either opt in or not to the 31AA. And that was in an October 24th email, which I have sent to you. Political considerations, concerns that advocacy groups, our own public, will criticize our district or other districts who do not accept the funding. Why aren't you concerned about student safety? What do we have to hide? Why aren't you doing the most you can to protect our students? Being on the list. Because there's probably going to be a list of districts that don't opt in with these kind of questions. And again, things that as a board, as a district, we need to be aware of. Board considerations. Yeah, there is funding available that we've used in the past it's been very helpful to our district. Understand the short and long-term risks associated with opting in and accepting the funds. And again, potentially, loss of confidentiality, loss of voice, loss of transparency, operational flexibility, public scrutiny, no limits, enhanced legal exposure to the district, disincentive for objective and frank communication, especially with our own attorneys who are going to provide us with that legal guidance in situations. That would include a mass casualty event. We do have to declare by November 30th. We basically have 3 options during that declaration. We reject the funds, and the board can do that with a resolution. I got that coming up here. We can opt in using a resolution and board action, or we can opt in through an employee with no board action. So if we reject the funds, 2 different ways we can do that by not opting in. Number 1, we don't discuss this ever again. And then November 30th, we either go into the system, we opt out, or we don't do anything. Or we take board action with a resolution. Now that resolution could have reasons for rejecting or not opting in, because maybe the district wants to preserve those attorney-client privileges. We are committed to reasonable or responsible governance. We want to protect sensitive information for our students, our staff, and our community. And again, we still want to prioritize student safety and mental health to other initiatives. Is that resolution going to carry any weight if something happens? I don't have that answer. But it does give the district or the board a voice. Opt in with a board action. Again, a resolution to opt in and accept the 31AA funding. And with that, very similar to opting out with a resolution, we can identify some of that language, including limits to the extent allowable by law. Again, that's legal language there. Board reserves the right to challenge the enforceability. These are just pieces we can include in that resolution. And I do have those coming from our legal team. But again, how enforceable is that? I don't know. I don't know. We can opt in as an employee. Basically, we don't need board action, we need board guidance. Superintendent or another school official, I need you to log in and accept the funds. Opt in. No offense to me personally, I wouldn't recommend that. There's 2 of us that have this type of level to opt in, myself and Kylie Rush, our business director. Okay? The impact of the waiver requirement, employee liability, again, don't have those answers. I don't think anybody does right now. So again, before we open up the discussion, information. Information is changing daily right now with this. Because different legal firms, we've got 2 of them listed there, Troon and Collins and Bylaw, who we use a lot. That's where this information came from. Michigan Department of Education, that's where this information came from. And our insurance and Metropolitan Association for Improved School Legislation. I knew I had it in there. Okay, I do have another meeting on Friday that I'll be attending with Region 5, where Collins and Bylaw will be back. My understanding, there's meetings happening all the time right now at the state level in regards to 31AA funding. Every district has to make a decision. Board, we have to make a decision one way or the other. Not asking for that decision tonight. Okay, again, I'm asking to provide information to you so we can start thinking as far as the direction that we want to go as a district. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and there will be a lot of legal and legislative tests. Whether before November 30th or after November 30th, there will be a lot of legislative and legal tests the first time it happens, it'll be challenged. We hope it doesn't happen, not just in Linden, but in any district. Again, we have time, but we don't have time. We do have another board meeting scheduled for November 19th. I'm assuming this will be on the agenda at some level as a board. Up until November 30th at 11:59, we also have you have the right to call a special meeting. Again, depending on what direction the board wants to go with 31AA funding. Now, I will go back real quick. The beginning of the presentation, because a lot of times we get caught up in the opting in, subsection 2. I think it's important to remember that in all of the subsections, subsection 2, subsection 4, and 5, there is that last bullet. So subsection 2, we have to opt in or opt out. I shouldn't say that. We have to opt in. Subsection 5, 4, and 5 are the competitive grants. Which means if we want to move forward with the competitive grants, the same criteria would apply. Okay. Again, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. Maybe you don't, I don't know. I can take some questions. If I don't have the answer, I'll tell you I don't know.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of questions with this. I know, we've had a little bit of time to look through some of this. Obviously, if anyone has questions, we can try to talk. I think Russ has made it kind of clear that he doesn't have a lot of answers. I guess one thing that runs through my mind is because we do have the opportunity for another board meeting before this decision has to be made. Now, maybe we consider inviting our legal counsel into the next meeting and doing a closed session for Q&A under employee and legal counsel, and see if we have more information by then, and kind of hear directly from our legal counsel, because I don't think Russ is probably equipped to answer the questions that we might have. I mean, nothing personal.
No,
I think you've given us what
be
you
the
know.
first to admit it. We've, even in our meeting this morning, I was not the only superintendent asking questions. And I'm no further ahead today, right now, than I was this morning.
Yeah, there's just a lot to unpack here, and
I would ask if that is the direction of the board. If we could get some questions ahead of time, just so we can be prepared to make sure we're drilling down
right.
on what the board needs to make, because this is a heavy decision. I will tell you that I've been a superintendent now for 9 years, and I don't know if there's ever been a heavier lift put on school districts, not just Linden, but across the state.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's got their own opinion on the matter, but I don't like the way it feels, that's for sure, so. Any other thoughts on this? Mr. Everett and Mr. Murphy?
They kind of touched base with us a little bit at the MSUB, trip that we went on. And I guess I didn't really fully understand. I was just looking during the presentation at a couple things, and it looks like the ISD disperses the funds to the schools.
I'm sorry?
It kind of looks like the ISDs are gonna be the ones distributing, if you opt in, that they're gonna be the ones dispersing it to the schools. Have they, no?
No, I think the stuff in there I talked about ISD is not to duplicate services. So that would be like, just an example, nothing related to this, if Linden decided to build a GCI.
Okay.
Okay, so no, this money would come through as I would assume, it would come through our state aid, which would be the December 20th payment.
Okay, and then also, did I read it correctly that, not on your presentation, something else, that it's only K through 12, so nothing would even apply to our early childhood center?
Well, correct, our early childhood centers through the GSRP does not apply.
So
Now
those
that,
couldn't go there either.
I'm sorry?
Those, if we were to opt in, those funds most likely cannot go to that portion of the building over at Hyatt.
Not necessarily. So if we, for example, added security cameras, everything, again, I don't know,
Yeah.
but everything that we would be able to add security cameras, because again, that's a multi-use building. Just
Okay.
like the multi-purpose building, it's a multi-use building.
Yeah, there just seems to be a lot of strings attached to some of this, and I think you're right that we need to talk to, possibly if it's possible, some legal, because there's a lot in this. And I'm all for transparency, I know that most people are. Yeah, this is a big deal. There's a lot in here.
Thank you, Mrs. Selsky. What's the significance in subsections 4 and 5 the item that says, bullet point 3 under application is, submit spending plan to sustain salaries after the grant funding is concluded. Does that mean you're obligated, once you take the initial money, to provide your own money to sustain those?
If there's a plan to sustain it, yes, I'm sure the state of Michigan wants to know how you are going to use, where's that money gonna come from? To sustain that position or,
So they're giving you the initial dose, and then you have to provide out basically funds
potentially, yes.
down the road to, whether it be our SRO, or whether it be a mental health worker.
Yeah.
Or depending on which subsection we're talking about.
Yes, correct. An example I can give you, again, in the competitive grants, it may be a reason why you may not get it, but I'm sure you could put in there, after the money's gone and you eat the money up, you'll no longer have the position.
So then you probably be on the.
Again,
When you say competitive grants, how does this process work as far as, do they look at all the grants that are provided by all the individual school districts that fit these areas, whether it be 4 or 5? And they say, well, this one's stronger because they do have that plan to sustain that. So we're gonna give them money, but we're not, it's not, there's so much money in all the people that provide a grant, or request a grant. We qualified basically to agree to all the terms, that they would be a share of the funds.
yeah, I could not tell you how they determine the competitive grant piece. I mean, they've got $50 million in each of those subsections that they're gonna distribute. I can tell you that when we went through the last SRO grant, we did have to fill out an application, how the position we used, how many hours, have we, in our case, we were doing it through Linden, so we had conversations with them, what does the contract look like? We did not have to create a spending plan for that particular one, but I believe there was some matching dollars that the district had to put in based on the language for that one.
So that's running out, that one that we're currently working off of with the Linden, officer?
Yes,
Okay, so how much longer do we have on that
I
before?
believe this year.
Okay, so we're on the hook for the whole amount next year, the whole
Correct.
$15,000?
If we continue with that, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think in this day and age, likely we're gonna have to
Yeah.
continue with that. Just because it's so important to protect the students and the staff and the community, quite frankly. The other thing that caught my eye was the, opening up of you for forever and ever.
Say that again, Steve.
The 31A, I think subsection 2 maybe?
The limits, the temporal limits?
Yeah, where you're basically, you're tying the future board even beyond the grant to be open.
And again, I think that's one of the questions that people are hoping to have answers for, that's been asked. When does it start? When does it end?
It doesn't
Typically,
mirror the grant that you get, the money. It doesn't follow, it's not
no,
limited.
the grant, as you saw, is for fiscal year 26,
Right.
potentially 1-year extension. But when it talks about, in an unfortunate situation, there's no, like, we don't waive these privileges just for that grant year. There's no limit. And again, I don't know what the intent was, and we've received no answers, and there is no language within 31AA that puts limits on the privileges that could be waived, or that may be waived.
So basically, 31AA, we've participated in that in the past.
Correct.
And so what's the significant change between our past participation and this current projected participation? Is it just this, you agree to, basically open up all your information to be subject to review by?
So what's different in the past is that when they settled the budget under 31AA, they gave that money to us in our state aid that we had to use for safety, security, and mental health needs. There were no criteria in order to get that money.
Okay.
So now they have criteria in order to get that money.
some of it is pretty far reaching.
I guess I'd probably have to ask you to define far reaching.
Well, in the sense of the time frame of when activity can be reviewed, go back in time, you go forward in time, even outside this window of participation.
Yeah, I am not trying to be difficult, Steve, I don't know that answer, there's no timelines given, within the language.
Right.
And that is one of the questions that a lot of people across the state.
So,
I think this is another good reason why we need to talk to our legal counsel too, and see what their, I mean, they might not have an answer for us either, but, you know, that will be telling, you know, depending on what their response is.
you kind of mentioned that you felt like even the state legislatures that passed this, legislators that passed this thing, don't really understand the magnitude of it?
Unless they've been communicated, unless it's been communicated to them of the magnitude, I would assume we would have answers on what their intent was, or what the language means, and again, we haven't seen that.
So do you think there's any chance that this date gets bumped again?
No, I do not see that. And again, I say that based on information I've heard, because they have a deadline of December 31st to distribute the money. Are kind of backing off a little bit, as I mentioned earlier, our state aid checks come on the 20th of the month. And what I learned, because of the potential shutdown we talked about, the 10-day grace period that they had, when they mentioned that the budget had to be done by October 10th in order to get October state aid payments, they felt, the MD felt they needed that 10 days to process the state aid. And again, I have not seen that in writing, but based on the information that we've been able to gather from the budget to now, plus holidays, because I believe the legislature does shut down here in the next week or two. I think they're off for at least a week or so, minus any Thanksgiving or Christmas. I don't know their holiday schedule.
So you are suggesting that any participation in any one of these three subsections, that you can kind of write your own participation standards? Like, we'll go with this if this is, you can't really go against anything that they.
Well, we could write our own standards, but it wouldn't hold up in a court of law. Cause it's, you know, we could say this is what we agreed to, but that's just us, I mean, making our own
But
rules.
if they accept it, they accept it.
If they're not accepting it, we would be accepting the money.
If the board opts in or opts out using a resolution, we do not send that resolution to the state. Typically with resolutions, we send them to the appropriate party. This resolution, no. The only yes or opting in option we have is to go into the GEMMAR system, which the state uses. There's literally 5 check marks. That's it. Linden Community Schools, 5 check marks. Who's the person submitting? That's it. So the resolution, which may have some of the options that we did talk about, Steve, again, I don't have that answer on how that would hold up in any test, legal or legislative.
Are you gonna be prepared ultimately to make a recommendation at the next board meeting for this?
As of right now, no.
So you're gonna put it on us to create.
Well, as I mentioned,
It is our responsibility, yes, but we also.
but my recommendation should not, and I hear your question, because typically, yeah, 99% of the time, I do provide a recommendation. At this point, I'm not looking to do that because I cannot waive privileges of the district. The board has to waive the privileges of the district.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, the way
agree.
we're looking at it currently is kind of a lose-lose. And we need to get some more questions answered, so we wanna decide what end of the lose we wanna be in. Sorry, people have.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks, Mr. Stilsky, for putting all this time into it. I spent several hours kind of looking into this over the last few days, and out of everything that I read, I'm gonna read a paragraph that came from the Collins and Blaha statement, which is under waiving privilege, which I think when you read these legal opinions, a lot of times they're quite even-handed, but this one seemed to use some pretty strong language that really struck a chord with me. So it says, a school district that accepts 31A funds will be required to waive all privilege to documents if it were the subject of a state investigation under subsection 9. Most concerningly, this would include attorney-client privilege. The ability for clients to speak freely with their attorney is one of the bedrock principles of our country's legal system, and an attempt by the state to coerce a waiver of that right is alarming. The condition to waive attorney-client privilege, in conjunction with the board definition of a mass casualty event and the lack of a guarantee the investigator will be impartial, could lead to undesirable outcomes for the districts that accept 31A funds. Further, this mandated waiver of attorney-client privilege may violate constitutional protections. So, I think that was pretty strong language to me, and I understand all the pros and cons, and that it is a amount of money that I'm sure we could put to good use, but I do think with all the uncertainty around all the different things that could be counted as a mass casualty event, when you talk about the fights or the bus accidents and that kind of thing, and then all of a sudden you're potentially opening up not only the board or the administration, but also the employees and maybe student names and all that. I just think without a very clear definition, I think if I had to make a decision right now, I think it's too early in this process to go about accepting the money with not knowing what all those different pathways could be.
And I would ask the board, because this is just information, and this information I presented today could be only as good as the time we walk out these doors. So I would ask, please have an open mind as you're researching and as you're asking questions. Because as Jared said, there are pros and there are cons. Yes, when I first put this together and got the information, it caused me to pause. But at the same time, we also work for the best interest of our students.
Ms. Hanson?
Yes, I know all the associations are working very closely to try to get this changed. The hopes is that there'll be a supplemental, or this will be defined more, and it'll be an easier decision to make. So fingers crossed that that happens before we have to make this decision.
I guess, I just wanna, we kinda need to give, I feel like we need to give Mr. Sosky a little bit of guidance with regard to the next meeting. Is there anybody that feels strongly against, like, inviting legal counsel to come in for some questions and have a closed session with them regarding this? I don't think it can hurt,
And I can do that, I can reach out.
and hopefully, if we
Hopefully
get more
they're available.
information before that, it might make that conversation really easy as well. But not knowing when we might get that additional information, if at all, I think we just need to try to, cover our bases and make sure that we're preparing as best possible.
Given the timeline of our next meeting, I think the 19th, we need to remotely consider pushing another meeting towards the deadline date of November 30th in order to accrue more information, not be forced to make a decision on the 19th. We don't have to make it till the 30th, other than it's just easier for us to make a decision.
We could have so much clarity by that point that this isn't needed.
So, yeah, but I would not be opposed to considering an additional meeting towards the end of the month.
We have to post it 48 hours, is that the rule? So we could make that decision at the next
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
if we wanna, do that. I know there's a holiday break in there, so that might make it a little tricky, but we would still have enough time after the next meeting if we wanted to make that decision, for early the next week.
And maybe, I can communicate with President Block on that and potentially even have dates prepared prior to that, so that way we all know, or you know as a board, what that potential date could be. Any other questions? Again, if you have questions, please send them to me and I can get them off sooner. And I will communicate with our attorneys about potentially coming in.
All right, thanks, Russ.
Thank you, guys.
All right, don't go far.
No, change.
All right. So up next, our final discussion item for this evening is regarding superintendent goals. I know Russ has provided us with a little bit of information, his thoughts on this, and Kenny and I have talked about this as well regarding the strategic plan and just kind of working together on superintendent goals and such. So Russ, I'll go ahead and let you share your slides and then we can have some discussion.
No problem. So again, just to follow up, we've kind of had some discussions about a year and a half ago, and this is part of the process, but also making sure that as a board and I, hopefully are in the same, we're on the same page. So talking about superintendent evaluations, October 9th and 24 and October 23rd, we presented about some of the changes to the superintendent evaluation process. On the 23rd, the board approved a biennial evaluation process for the superintendent. So we went through that last year. Here we are this year, 25-26. So what I'm asking for moving forward is to establish the superintendent goals, which should put us in line sometime in February to do a mid-year progress report that we would do for the board. And then obviously the final evaluation for the superintendent in June. So superintendent goals, just some history. 16, 17. So 15, 16, I was the interim, I believe. And then 16, 17 as the superintendent. And again, at that point, 6 Board of Ed superintendent established goals. And then starting in 2017, 18, we kind of moved direction with those and really aligned them with our strategic plan, because I am a firm believer that a strategic plan should guide our district. So as I mentioned to the board before, having the superintendent goals match the strategic plan keeps everybody in the same boat and paddling in the same direction. So basically from 18 to 24, you use that process even as we've, and if you notice with the evaluation that some of you have done on me in the past, you know, we line it up, I've lined it up with the strategic plan. So our goal areas within the strategic plan are student achievement and engagement, facility improvements, educational and instructional technology, sustainability, and communication. Now within that strategic plan, this is, I know it's a small, but I wanted to put it all on one slide. But we have goal areas, as I just showed you, and then we have different objectives. And again, the purpose, even with the strategic plan leadership group, is to create a flexible strategic plan. Because as we've all seen, education changes a lot. And so locking us into a 3 or a 5-year strategic plan may actually lock us into being out of line. I think with the flexibility and with the guidance of the strategic plan leadership group, we've been able to keep our district moving forward. And as I presented over the years, we have started to include more metrics to measure our performance. So again, I am asking that in collaboration with the LCS Board of Education that we continue to use the strategic plan to establish superintendent goals for the 25-26 school year. It does ensure that the district board and superintendent are working together to accomplish the same goals. And that is our mission statement of the district, is to educate, nurture, and develop all learners, to be self-directed and strive for excellence with confidence and integrity by working cooperatively with our students, staff, parents, and community.
All right, thanks, Ross. Any comments on this from anyone else currently? Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Locke, thank you, Mr. Selsky, for updating us where you feel you're at right now. My concern, superintendent goal, district goal, is to retain as many students as possible that are in our proper area. It's been a long-standing concern for me that with declining birth rates, especially in the last 5 years, that we attract and retain every possible student that lives in this district. And I don't see that fitting into any of the main goal areas of the strategic plan. So I think that's something that needs to be added, and I'd just like your thoughts on where that could fit.
Yeah, in regards to the strategic plan, I can work with the strategic plan leadership group, trying to look to schedule a meeting here in November. And again, as far as that, as far as if the board wants that to be a separate goal, you have the right to do that. Yeah, I think like anybody, we want as many students as we can. And I think over the years, I've provided evidence and data on reasons why we potentially may not be getting some of those students. I think over the years, we have shown that we have put our best foot forward, other than knocking on every door, to entice students, offer opportunities for students to come to Linden and stay in Linden. whether it be academic or non-academic opportunities. I think we're seeing a little bit of growth in our early GSRP program. You saw the numbers go up this year. And again, just some visionary thinking, some support of our community with the bond to be able to move our facility and enhance it, offer some more opportunities for our youngsters. And I think our kindergarten numbers were, I know minimal, but I believe they were the only numbers this year that we saw an increase compared to last year.
So how do we encourage you to put this on top of the document? Because I agree, I believe that if we don't stop the bleeding on this problem, that we're going to eventually feel it financially. We've been blessed with the state giving us sizable increases in our state funding, and that's allowed us to kind of like put this problem aside, in my opinion.
I would disagree that we put the problem aside.
Well,
Well, and I would argue that we don't even have a problem, but that's gonna be a matter of opinion. And I think to answer your question, Steve, in order for Russ to put this at the top of his list, we would need to make that a board directive. In my opinion, retention and recruitment is a measure of the goals. That's, we're measuring our strategic plan and if it's working in these areas, to meet our mission by having, the school of choice numbers that we have coming in, or retention that we have. I mean, yes, we're always losing some students and we can't always answer why, but also we have more school of choice students coming here than neighboring districts, even though there are less students to choose from, growth rates are down. And we can't control that part either. And I know we've had this discussion many times, so I don't want us to move off into a recruitment and retention discussion here, although we can certainly have that for a future conversation. I wanna stay focused on what Russ is asking us here regarding the strategic plan and his goals. I do think, I agree that keeping the superintendent goals in line with the strategic plan is the right way to go. In fact, I would even argue when you say on here 25, 26, I don't know, maybe 26, 27, 27, I mean, this is another one of those items I feel like we could kind of push it out for a few years, saying this is kind of what we expect until further notice. As long as we're updating the strategic plan annually, which you have been working with the group to do.
that's internally updated. That's not really involved in the community.
It involves the community through all the surveys that go out, and there are community members on that group as well.
We know how well surveys perform.
Well, we have pretty good response rate. Again, this is something we can, we can debate, we won't see eye to eye on it probably for, till the end of time. But I want us to stay focused on this, on what Russ is asking us now regarding the superintendent goals. And I personally don't think adding a goal of retention is appropriate because the retention is a measure of the other goals that are already in place. That's my opinion. I don't know other
So we're failing.
I don't feel like we're failing.
Well, if we don't retain 100%, then we're failing in some way.
I mean, there's no statistician in the United States of America or globally probably that would argue that you have
If
to
we
have
didn't have
100%
school
to be
of choice to
successful.
deal with, it'd be a lot easier.
Well, we can't control that either, so.
That's the problem.
Other questions or comments regarding Russ's presentation, Mr. Payne?
As far as, who sits on the strategic plan committee?
Oh, geez, I mean, I can't list them all off the top of my head, but we have teachers, we have community members, trying to think of other.
Board members, there's Linden, there's
Business people we've had on there, and sometimes it changes year to year because people leave or, staff members that retire, community members that leave the area, or don't want to be part of it anymore.
My question is also, if there's an adjustment, are we putting the cart before the horse here? If there's an adjustment to the strategic plan goals, do we need to know that first?
Yeah,
Before
well,
we should align your goals
we
to that?
don't, I don't anticipate seeing adjustments to 25, 26. If we remember, in 24, 25, we did a heavy lift with our strategic plan with our group. I think I presented that, I remember that night over at the middle school. Or no, it was here actually, where it wasn't middle school, so the building wasn't ready. But we kept the goals, but the objectives of those goals and the strategies changed drastically because we had seen the increases in some of the metrics that we provided, to where it was time, and again, yes, even to the survey, we are looking to do that at a different time of year, just to try to get more input. So the more we can get, the better. And so, I don't see things changing in 25, 26, but as we work forward, then potentially changes for 26, 27.
Thank you.
Ms. Linda?
Yes, I have a question to follow up on how your strategic planning committee that
Mhm.
puts this together. How do you select who is going on that? Is it something where people show interest and they come to you and say, I want to be a part of that? Is that something you put feelers out to within staff across the district? Or is it mostly from one area in the district that you pull in? Or how does that?
No, I believe, years ago when we put together this type of committee and structure, I believe at that point I'd asked each principal to bring 2 to 3 members, coaches, sports boosters, community members, and then kind of as people leave, we try to replace.
I know it's helpful for me as a board member when we go through to do your, your review, having this structure is helpful for me, because it helps me be, just look at the goals, look at our strategic plan, look at what you've provided and have done, and it makes it very streamlined, I feel like, so I feel like this is the right way to keep moving with this, for sure. And I know we had a lot of discussion back when we, decided on the, every other year evaluation about like there's kind of not a lot of guidance on this mid-year review piece either. I think this also helps us provide that mid-year review by keeping it in
Definitely.
line with the strategic plan, so. Yeah. Do you have comments?
I was just gonna add that even, I agree too, even on the board reports, any kind of report that comes out, oftentimes you will tie that to which section of the strategic plan it ties to, which I think is a good reminder that everything that we do should tie to our strategic plan since we have it, and I think that you and the administration have always done a great job of tying it back to that, so I think it just makes kind of the natural sense that the way everything is structured to make sure that the evaluation continues to tie to it.
All right. Thanks, Russ. All right, there is no closed session this evening, so at